Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday, and got Tesla Tracker on with me, and yeah, some
Yep, good
boring
morning.
developments here. Nothing
Not
exciting
boring
really
company
going on.
development. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing
But we were
really
just
exciting
talking
happening in
about
markets.
what?
Basically, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, I was just checking to make sure I wasn't on mute. We're I like Matt and I were just talking about a potential strategy or potential what could happen. Why don't you do that whole setup for us again, Matt? We were talking about how it hasn't really on his chart right there. That purple line is his moving average 200 on the
Yeah.
daily, and he was talking about how it hasn't really quite touched it yet. But I said, oh, it's just kind of floating on a little cloud of air right over it. And when was the last time it did this, Matt?
Yeah, so on the daily chart here, I just wanted to point out that yesterday price just got back up to resistance, and it got rejected hard. And you can see that pre-market is 576 is going back to where levels were yesterday. But yeah, the 200-day moving average still has not been touched at all yet. And the last time that happened was really back here in 2023 of October. It didn't even touch it. It floated. Then there was a good rally back up to resistance, and then it rolled over and boom, just went V bottom hard through it, and that was the bottom. So if it's anything like that, we could possibly be seeing something like that before any kind of recovery. But I kind of do expect it to
Wait,
get
wait, wait.
touched. So
Go back 1 second.
yeah,
I just want to
yeah,
point out to all those people that are diehard gap fillers. You can see all those gaps it made, and it never went back and filled those gaps.
yeah.
It never
Gap
will.
here, gap here, gap here.
Yeah,
So yeah,
sometimes
it
the
just
gaps
never
just mean
filled the
that
daily
it's in
gaps.
a hurry to go somewhere. Yeah, and it's been
Yeah.
in a
So with that
hurry ever
said,
since.
I warned on my Patreon yesterday that don't get excited about closing the candles up here around 583 because that is resistance. And sure enough, that got rejected hard overnight. So this is why when you see daily candles continuously close under resistance, we just got to be more cautious. And that's exactly what SPY is doing. It's consistently now closing daily candles underneath this 585. So until then, I think it's just going to keep testing lows, or maybe even try to wick through the lows and test, get some liquidity below with those levels. And
And
with that said, we can take a look at the QQQ too. This one did touch the 200-day, so that's good. 2 days in a row it did that, and now it's even trying to maintain this 497. But guess what? Pre-market, it doesn't want to stay above it. It wants to go back down towards the 200-day, so that's 492 again. It is 494, so that is going to be the focus to see if it can continue to build a base on top of that. And if so, then possibly it can be more bullish. And I think there is a good chance of staying in this zone simply because the weekly chart here is the baseline right at 495.32. So it has potential to stay there. But in case it doesn't, there is that 50-week moving average below at 484. So there is still weakness out there, guys. Don't get excited about just going back up towards resistance. I know a lot of people think, oh, it's going to break this time. It's going to break. But that's how people get trapped. And I think the market makers know that because people trade off a sentiment or off their feelings and not really how the charts really look. Tesla is the best example of that. And IWM is weekly chart. It is going back down to fill in that wick again. Daily chart. It's getting kind of trapped underneath this 208. But the good news is on linear scale, it's kind of building a base right here on top of the 203, which I love that 203 simply because it is the monthly baseline right there at 203.33. So I do like that back test of that zone. So essentially, all markets are doing is going back to where they were basically intraday yesterday. That's all they're doing pre-market. With that said, I can jump on to Tesla too and just show you what's going on with that chart. And same thing with Tesla, right? It's going back down to levels to the 702. It's going back through it. Maybe a back test of the 50-week moving average as well. But I would like to see this zone hold, right? Because on my weekly updates, if you've been following, it held support back here on February 10th, but then it lost support here, lost support here. So I want to see the trend reversed of losing support levels week after week. So if that trend reverses on Friday and just holds these levels, both of them, then there's a potential to start to build a base and go higher. So do not want to wait, or do not want to see weekly candles continuously close below levels, because that kind of confirms more downside, just like the past 2 weeks did. So there we go. I just want to see at least 272.79 hold throughout the week. And it can go below again today, tomorrow. It doesn't matter, but I'd like to see the candle close above both levels tomorrow.
Yep. Oh, let's see. I don't know what to tell you about my Tesla chart. You can show my Tesla chart. It just basically has, you know, you're here. We're at the daily pivot. After all this action, as far as standard pivot points go, we're right at it pre-market. The daily pivot is 272.74. I know it's really tiny and hard to read. The daily's S1 is even a little bit below the lowest low we've made so far this downturn. Resistance will continue to be the Ichimoku. These are 4-hour candlesticks. The Ichimoku baseline above here, 286, which is just above the daily R1. I don't know. I'd say if we're gonna get green shoots and bullish action, then look for price to stay above the daily pivot and just bounce off the R1, and then try to stay up there to get above it. But oops, if you get the opposite and it just goes under it, can't get above it, and starts to go down, then I would be very worried. It's in a tough place. Definitely a tough place.
Yeah, I just want to see
I don't have more money to buy more. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to see it hold.
Go ahead. You just want to see?
Yeah, I just want to see it hold. Like,
Yeah.
the trend has been losing support after week, so that trend needs to stop for this to stop falling.
Yeah, let me just keep going. I'm just going to double check the max pain here. Yesterday was 295 for tomorrow. Now it's 290. It dropped $5, so now max pain is 290 for tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow's close.
Yeah.
Which means I just lower this. I keep hoping it'll just go right up to the max pain. That is the weekly S3 pivot. That means during this week, it went like 3 significant levels below where the usually price action will try to stay near a major pivot and not stray too far. But obviously, this has just been quite the push down.
Yeah, I see. Dan is requesting a Gantt chart. I think a Gantt chart, isn't that for tasks on a project? I'm pretty sure that's what that is. But yeah.
Yeah. He means Gantt chart.
I think it's a Gantt. I see that all the time on X, a Gantt. But yeah, they're mixing up a bar chart with the actual chart. But yeah, it's a Gantt chart. But no, I don't have those because they're basically continuously going lower and lower. So I'm just waiting for things to go higher and higher. That's the only way to really do a successful GAN. But yeah, go ahead and take it away with CLDI.
Yeah, I was going to say, a Gantt chart, you need a lot more history than this one's got. Higher high and higher low. Let's see. Yeah, I thought this was the bottom. Well, no, let's see. Thought that was the bottom for a while, then it made a lower low. Now it's made a higher low. So again, it just comes up to today. I see we've got earnings on next Friday. Not that they don't have a lot of earnings to show. This company they're developing stuff, and so they're just spending money. They're not earning any money yet. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, it just made a lower low, so it's trying to go sideways. I still like the risk reward from down here, so I bought a bunch of shares. I'm still holding on to mine. This is my cost, $1.33, and I've got about, I can't remember, like 5,000, no, more than that, 10,000 shares, 8,000 shares. I'm just hanging on. Just have to wait. It's an endeavor of trust and hope. And hope is not a strategy. What is the other one Dan asked for? Is it Kalidi and BFRG? And the BFRG, this is my passion project. I really believe in this company and what they'll be able to do with AI in medicine. And let's see, overall, the lowest it ever went was $1.43 last July, and it made a significantly higher high, and then came all the way back down to $1.76 just 2 days ago, or just yesterday, really. Yeah. So if that holds, then I've got this setup, which is what you're seeing here. Go back to the weekly chart. These fibs on the right. So it could go to all these 306, 256, 597, back to 436. Oops. And then 5 waves would go to 930, 938. And you can see in the past, I mean, when this thing first debuted back this is when in 2023, early 2023, when all the AI was the rage, and this stock came out, it immediately went and got its first all-time high of 950, and this would be 5 waves up, would be just under that, which then would consolidate to build support before it can make a new higher high. I don't know. The math works out, the logic works out, and BFRG is supposed to have a really good year this year. They've already got their first. They just announced their first revenue-generating contracts, so let's see if they can post news about more contracts rolling in, and then things will start to look like, the fundamentals will say, oh, look, they can actually make money. That's all I got to say about those two for now.
All right. Let me jump on.
Bullfrog is back to being my. Go ahead. Oh, just second. It was my first largest position, but now with all my throwing money back into TSLL, it's my second largest position after TSLL.
Very good. All right, let's go to NVIDIA and take a look at that. So sub 100 incoming, or are we bottoming right now? Well, it's possibly a bottoming process. I don't know. But one thing I am concerned about with this one is just its breaking trend of what it has been doing successfully for a long time. And that is consecutively staying like consecutive weeks, basically above the baseline. And every time it dropped below, the following week recovered very quickly before, right? But now we're losing that momentum of the baseline last week, and even this week it's going deeper and deeper instead of correcting higher and higher. So with that said, I think, yeah, it's probably looks like it's maybe going to go lower, possibly continuously retest the cloud at 109, 110. In that zone. But if it ever starts to break inside this cloud in the weeks to come, then I think it might even drift lower down into the 90s. Yeah. So this is potentially a stock that could be drifting a little bit lower before going higher. And the daily chart doesn't really help us either because it's below all the stuff here. So the monthly chart, we can look at that. And the monthly chart is giving us a sign of, okay, when was the last time it closed a month underneath the conversion line? It almost did it last month, but the very last trading day of the month, it closed back above the conversion line. But now it is drifting lower and lower and lower. But the month is still young. It still has 25 days, so it still could just recover by the end of the month. But I'm going to point out the last time it really closed below that conversion line was back here in 22. But you saw what happened the last time it started closing under the conversion line month over month, right? Boom, boom, boom. Oh, it was a downtrend for a while. So if the same thing happens, then yeah, it could be the beginning of a shorter term or half a year downtrend or something, right? Just maybe go down to the baseline there, maybe even go to the 1.618. I don't even know, right? So this is something that I am cautious about. This is something that I took profits on last week. Right, this is something that I think that has potential to go lower. Right, this is a loss of momentum in the works, in the making, possibly. And I did mention to my Patreon people that it looks like it's distribution up here. All these wicks, all these monthly wicks. It just looks like the big money is selling to retail up here, right? That's what it kind of feels like for Nvidia. But we'll see. I mean, still 25 days left in the month. We'll see if it can reclaim this momentum and go higher. But if it does start to close underneath this 121, 122, then I will be a little worried about it because I think it might start going into the weekly cloud and drift lower. So, Nvidia, I started taking profits after holding it for years and years and years. So there we go. That is my take on Nvidia.
I want to show my NVIDIA chart because I think, I dare say your NVIDIA chart needs a moving average 75 on it.
Okay.
So if you look at mine here, you can see how the moving average 75 is usually, it just cuts right through the Ichimoku cloud usually. It's that battleground point between, this is my 50 in blue and my 100 in yellow. And so, yeah, on an uptrend, it's just in between. We lose, if it goes into the cloud, I'll bet it's going to find support of that moving average 75 first, and then either it recovers and gets out of the cloud, which is great, or if it stays stuck in the cloud and crosses under the moving average 75, then it's going to go for the 100. And I wouldn't be surprised if it did, if it loses the 75 and goes under it, I'll bet it'll hit the 100 like right about here. And then if it bounces off the 100, then it could look really good. As far as Elliott waves go, I've got, let's see, from down here at 1080, so like I was taking like a really significant low, from 1080 and then to this $96 back to 75.60. No, I'm sorry. No, that's right. I'm calling that my, if this was large degree 1, 2, then what we got was like 382, and it lost the 382, went to 236, then couldn't get much over the 764. So if this time, if it stopped at the 382, so let me just get rid of all this. If it did happen to stop at the moving average 75, say right around my 382 at 108.68, if it holds 108.68, which it's already tried to do once here, that would likely want to send it to the 138.2 up here at 195. It would be basically a 764, kind of lost the 236, but then regained the 382. So I don't know. This is significant. That's what I'll say. This wick is significant. If it retests it in double bottoms, that would be fantastic for Nvidia. If it falls below 108, then yeah, look out for wherever it hits the moving average 100.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, it's basically 109, 108. It's gotta hold that level for things to have a chance to get recovered. But if it starts to lose that, then yeah, it's going probably to the below sub 100.
Yeah, just put a marker on your chart for 108.68, and watch and see what happens. Kramer's been tweeting all week about data center plays.
So maybe they go lower. Interesting. I got Cypher on deck here, so Cypher here, I like it, right? Cypher looks beautiful, keeps on retesting both of these things here, the 618, the 375 right down here, and also the 100-week moving average. It keeps on testing that as well. So it's right in a nice demand zone, right? You can clearly see that by all this building a base in the past in 2024 on top of that 375 over and over and over again. So yeah, if you're looking at an opportunity to not trade in hindsight in the future, I think this is probably one of them, because it looks like it has the potential to keep on just doing what it has been doing in all of 2024. Keep building a base in this zone here for the potential to go higher. So I think a lot of the miners look the same too. They're all kind of doing the same thing, where they're still making basically higher lows from before, and they're all basically still just building a nice foundation to go higher. So miners, they look good for the future. They really do. People hate them. People give up on them. But usually when people give up on stuff is when they start to bottom out and go higher. So I think Cypher looks pretty decent.
Let's see. I've got
All right.
Tiger up, FinTech
Yeah.
Holdings up here on deck. I've got a larger degree 1-2 here with these fibs on the right. Um, it needs to get to at least the 382. So far, the 236 has been resistance. It could either 1-2-3-6. If you want to be a lot more bullish, it would go all the way up to the 764 back to the 382. That's this one that I'll highlight with a much bolder path, or potentially just an ABC retrace uh, back to this 764 level, which would take it to $29.70. So I'm still kind of watching to try to see if it's going to be more five waves up or an ABC correction up. This first move that got us to a 1498, it was almost a 3-2, then it got rejected all the way back, almost back down to where it started again. So just have to see as far as retraces from that high. It's the baseline sits right at its own 38.2% retracement to the top up here. Oh, you know what? I need to move it up to there because it had after hours action. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's stuck right under this 382. So once if it can get over $9.05, uh, 2, 3, 6. Oh no, actually it should go to 1133 next if it can get over 905. But no, just doesn't. We don't want to see it make a lower low. If it gets under $6, and it might lose this 535. So that might be a good place for a stop under $6, or
Yeah.
just have conviction and keep holding it. Cat likes it. Cat likes Tiger.
I like it too. I was accumulating
Yeah.
in the low sevens and high six zone. I like it.
And
Um,
here it is on the monthly. Yeah, on the monthly MCDX Plus, it's got lots of institutional buying it for the last 6 months in a row, 7 months in a row. Just have to see it push the retail all the way out.
yeah. All right. I have the FLNC and OSS ready to go, and there's not much to say for FLNC. It just collapsed and it went right back down, potentially a double bottom. So if you want to gamble and say this might hold, then by all means try to bottom fish. But these charts are not really for me. So yeah, basically this has to hold. Like the $5 range has to hold, or else it's going to collapse even more. So that's the risk that you're going to take if you're going to invest in this. And OSS, we can go here one stop. This one is back testing some important levels here: the 50-week, the bottom of the cloud, the 100-week, all in the same zone. It did that earlier this week, and now it's actually trying to go back towards the top of the cloud. So it's I think it might just be stuck for a while. It doesn't look like it's really ready to break out, but it can stay in a range. Maybe this is the range it might be in for a while before it really tries to go higher. But ultimately, stay above like the 250s down here, and then I think it goes higher. But other than that, I think it's just going to be stuck in between these moving averages and all of this resistance in the 350s above.
Hmm. Let's see. I've got this Powell chart. We've done this one before, and where I thought it was going to do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 559.72, it lost the. It basically is looking like this was five waves up, or maybe just an ABC. It doesn't have that kind of history though, does it? No. So this is too deep for a fourth wave. Oops. This down here, that's too deep for a fourth wave. But it does look good for a larger degree 1-2. So I could take this and just say, wherever this low holds, which looks like it held at this weekly moving average 100 in yellow here, skip to the end, that would take us to either the 236 or the 238. So that still looks pretty good for the stock. Let's see, what would that look like? If we did, let's be conservative. We'll do 618, 236. 1236, 2236. So there's a possible path up. 518% gain if it gets up there. Just to test out the 618 is 136% higher from where it is right now. The caution would be obviously if it loses the moving average 100 and wants to go all the way back down to this 200. That's $84, which would give you a fantastic entry point. But yeah, I guess put your stop loss or hold your breath if it drops below this cloud here and at $140.69.
All right. Yeah, I got hymns ready to go next. A lot of people are requesting hymns here. So here's my GAN for hymns, and it's going back to the bottom arc again down here after getting rejected at the 1.414. It's just volatility. So will it stop around here? We can go to the linear scale fibs and actually get some confluence of that. And we can see that the 1.414 does sit a little bit lower here at 34.79. So if it wanted to retest that, I think it's possible simply because you can see it spent 3 weeks there before. 1, 2, 3, right here in this November of 2024. So a backtest of that would be normal, right? A big breakout, big backtest of a previous resistance flip to support. So if you're looking for an opportunity, perhaps a little bit lower before higher, I think, for HIMS. But this is something that's really, really volatile. So if you're going to play this stock, you got to be willing to understand it's like a 2 or 3x ETF that it just trades very, very, very volatile all the time, right? All these drops here, they're pretty significant, right? Like this one was basically 50%, right? This one was basically just a few weeks with 30%. So right now it's kind of the same. So just got to be able to withstand that volatility if you want to get the gains, but I think still it has potential to go a little bit lower before higher. So that is no worries because it's still a very bullish formation for HIMS.
Yeah. Let me show my HIMS chart and I'll look at Tesla here because Chocolate Monster came in late and is worried that it's breaking down pre-market. Here's my HIMS chart, and it did do a really nice 1, 2, 3, a very long wave 2, very short wave 4. Wave 5 extended all the way up to 300% of the original wave 1. So that was really nice, but then now it's this moved down. It's really hard to see. I'm guessing this is like your A, C right here. And, HIMS chose violence, really. I would have expected this wave 1 to hold as support and maybe even with like a fibs distance between the two, and it didn't. It wicked into what I thought it should have held. So maybe now it's going to go back, and it could, like a most extreme version of the pullback would take it back to $35. It would revisit the top of wave 1, and that used to happen a lot when I traded in 2018. I feel like it was when that used to happen a lot. I didn't see it much in 2023, 2024 though, but that's what it could go back to trying to do. It could touch the top of that wave 1, and then that would be a great place for it to take off. The good news is if you bought it recently or you're buying it now, you don't have long to wait. But so far, 36.02 is the bottom, and if it goes up from here, then here's my fibs. Let's just go higher. Skip to the end. 177.77 if $36 holds, and if not, it only changes all those targets by a couple dollars. And then answer Cookie Monster, Chocolate Monster, Chocolate Monster. Is Tesla breaking down pre-market? Let's look at on the 1-hour chart. It's not breaking down.
It's higher lows, so
it's higher lows. We have like a toothpick bottom kind of here at 261, and then higher high, higher low, and then now it's a triangle. So here's where what you want to do is you want to make you just want to get the upper trend line and the lower trend line. I use triangles to do this. So here's the descending resistance trend line and a rising support trend line. And which way out of this triangle it breaks is, where you don't want to see it go. Sometimes Tesla likes to do this thing where It just breaks the support trend just to get enough people to capitulate, and then it shoots up. So you could look out for that. But just keep in mind what our max pain scenario now for tomorrow is 290. So it's going to want to try to go, it might try to gravitate towards this by tomorrow's close. So maybe it gets as high. Oh, and also, so prices at, well, right now it's just under the daily pivot at 272.74. So you want to see price get over the pivot and stay above it. And, maybe the R1 resistance is as high as we go today. If not, I'll post this chart for everybody with these pivot points. You just want to watch and see how it reacts to these pivot points today.
Yeah, and I have something I just wanted to bring up to people that are worried about things. And markets, they love to get people excited at resistance and desperate at support. And the example I can show you is like, remember back in December, everybody's like, oh, it's going to the moon right here. And it's this wick here, then it did it again 2 weeks in a row, like a tweezer top two. And like everybody kept on like, oh, it's going higher, higher. And I guarantee you a bunch of people bought up here because they thought it was just going to keep melting up, right? And no, that's the top, right? And the same thing happens at support, where people they keep on sending it down to support over and over again to make people give up and desperate that it's going lower. But it's happened before. Like you saw here back in July, it was a temporary top, like, oh, excitement for a couple weeks in a row. And then you saw down here desperation for a couple weeks. And then you saw up here a couple weeks of excitement, couple weeks of excitement. And right here in December of 2023, it kept a couple weeks of excitement, like it's going to break out and go higher. It's just what markets do, right? They know people trade based off of emotions, and because of that, people get very emotional at support. They get very emotional at resistance, and they think that it's going to happen, but usually the opposite happens. So, with that said, am I worried about it? Not really, because it's still holding support. I want to get confirmation that it wants to close above support for Tesla. And that is the 272.79 would be ideal to close both above the 50-week and that fib right there. Because like I said previously, I want this trend of breaking support to stop. I don't like it, right? For 2 weeks in a row, it broke support and closed below. Broke support, closed below. And on my weekly updates, I said that once it breaks, it gives us confirmation that things have potential to go lower. And even on last week's update, I said it could go into the 250s. And it didn't do it. It went to 261, so almost got down to the 250s. But 258, it's possible. And the reason why, it's the 50% fib right here on linear scale, 25815, right? And that is a previous resistance, breakout back test, flip to support. So if it does close below levels again this week, then expect the 250s, right? But until then, we'll see. I take things 1 week at a time. So people say, oh, I always change my numbers. There's always one. And the reason why is because I wait for confirmation. I don't like to assume. I like to react to what the market tells me, not to anticipate it. So with that said, I think there's really nothing else. Oh, there's a couple more requests. Yeah. Do you have anything else to add, Tracker? Tracker, did you run away? Well, I guess Tracker.
I'm so sorry, I hit the mute button. I forgot. I'm here.
Okay.
Show my Tesla chart one last time. I just want to show why I think we could possibly hit support. It's this trend line right here, from the 138.80 low through this bottom, and we've kind of wicked below it. But this is where the market wanted to take it. And so, there's a very good chance that it just tried to scare us by dipping underneath this trend line, which just dropped like a straight line on linear scale. So, this is a great scare point for it to stop and then start recovering. So don't panic. Unless it makes a new lower low. Oh, and then I had this thought, I've been looking for this thing to just go crazy, zing bang. Like if you just draw a line through all of this, if this is like an oscillation to the top side, the bottom side, returns to the mean, and keeps going, that's what I want to see. But I do have to acknowledge that in the past, it's done this pattern of behavior where it hits a peak, does a scary drop, starts to run up just like Matt said to get people kind of excited, and then it does another scary drop. So if nothing else, it's due for a nice peak to get people excited, which could give you another trading opportunity. Maybe it comes to just under 400 or maybe 366, and then that might be an opportunity to take some money off the table and for it to fall back lower and then buy back in again. We'll try to keep you appraised as that goes on. Um, all right. And then what did you want to do another?
Yeah, I was just going to do one more. I was going to do a MicroStrategy. I mean, if you wanted to do Marvel
Okay.
before we end the show,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I'll take a look at the Marvel house.
So MicroStrategy, 245 held perfectly as support. Nobody wanted it there, but now everybody wants it at 300, I guess, right? That's how markets work. See, this had the same thing, right? It was freaking people out at support here 2 weeks in a row, and it held. So with that said, we can see that now it's trying to battle this blue level of the game, 301. Basically, that's going to be the target to try to close above the week. So in my opinion, it's just stuck in between fibs too, the 1.272 and the 1.414. So that's it. Just stuck in between there. So nothing exciting, in my opinion, is going to happen until this 340 is broken as a resistance, because it was a support, flipped to resistance, came back down to test lower support, and now it held. So basically, get back above 301, then 340, and then after that, it'll be a lot more bullish. So I do like MicroStrategy, which means I also like Bitcoin. So that means I think possibly the bottom could be in, and we can start to trend higher, but at 340 has to get broken first.
All right, I've got Marvel here, and this is a great one because this is an old chart. This is one I drew like at least I don't know a couple months ago, and I was predicting a wave 4 retraced to 76.4%, and look what we got, retraced to 76.4%. So this one's working out really well. I'm going to put on my new style of the 618 type extensions, where it highlights in blue the ones that I'm looking for. And so what I saw here was after it ran up to this wave 1, wave 2, it did more than a 618. At first it did a 764, so I was looking for it to hold at the 382, but then it kind of lost it. So I said, okay, well maybe what happened is it got really happy, and it really is, it's a 618 that got out of control, back to the 236 for support. It got to the 1236 perfectly, and retraces back to the 764 perfectly so far. And so if everything else holds up, its next target should be a wave 5 to 219.37, or from where price closed. We already hit that 85.53 level, so unless it double bottoms, if you just catch it from where it is, where it closed yesterday, 145% higher to 219.37. It is possible, because the wave 1 got so excited, I don't know, it could melt up even a little higher, but I would take most of my profit ahead of 219.37 for this. And that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, all right.
Institutions like it, 78%. Yep.
Very, very nice. Yeah, so we'll see you tomorrow.
And, yeah, I'll come back tomorrow.
Sounds fantastic.
I've been trying to take Fridays off, but I'll come back tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think we might have to
see how
reevaluate.
Got to see how the week closes. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Matt. Thank you guys for hanging out with us.
See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Yep.